how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
To infinity and beyond!
Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
It's classified.
You talking to me?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
I can't lie!
Expecto Patronum!
Entertainment X.
You never know what you're going to get.
Today's episode is with Eric Woodall. He's a casting director at Tara Rubin Casting. We discuss auditions, ways of being, why we touch on why people do what they do. We also cover his background in directing and performing and how he's been navigating through his life. This is a fascinating conversation about human nature and so much more. So I hope you enjoy this episode and keep on keeping on. And we are back, and today with me is Eric Woodall. Eric, thank you for sitting down with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
I mean, it's gorgeous out today. You've been inside all day.
All day. I could see the pretty weather through the window.
And now we don't have it.
I know. Now there's no window. I know.
But I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down.
Thank you.
Now, we came across each other, I came across you per se, through Timothy Booth.
Yes.
And we did Disney Cruise Line together.
Yes.
For like...
Not a fun guy at all.
No.
Not funny at all.
No.
And not at all talented.
Not, yeah, in the wrong profession.
Right. No, he's one of my closest friends, and he's such a dear soul. I've known him forever, it feels like, and yeah, we sort of came up in this business as actors together, and then I have segued onto other elements of this business. Yeah. But it's been great to continue that friendship, and also then to I don't know, play a small part in his professional career. You know, with a couple of the shows he's done and stuff. So
Where'd you guys meet?
Oh, God. Originally, we met through friends of friends, and then we became friends. You know how that kind of works early on when you all first get to New York? And
Twice removed friend, then a first
Right.
removed friend.
And then you're all suddenly hanging out, and you're like, oh, you know. And he's Virginia boy, and I'm North Carolina boy. So, I mean, we really hit on that level. So
North Carolina.
Yeah.
Beginning of time, dare I say, for Eric Woodall?
Yes, beginning of time.
I want to start with your earliest memory of performing.
Well, that's a great question. Growing up in a small town, I knew from the beginning that I felt different. I didn't know what that fully meant at the time, but, you know, growing up a boy in a very, very small town, and I wasn't athletically inclined. I learned very early on, and so I had a wild imagination, and I had parents that supported that and encouraged that, and my mom doesn't remember the story this way, but I remember it so vividly. She came to my bedroom one evening, and she had a newspaper clipping. And I was probably 8 years old, and she said, "There's this audition in Raleigh, and it's for a play. It's Tom Sawyer. Do you think that's something you'd like to audition?" And I remember lighting up and saying yes. Like, I sat up in my bed, and I couldn't go to sleep because I was so excited at the prospect.
How did she know?
She knew. I mean, we're talking about a lot of different things right now. She knew a lot of things. Yeah. But I think...
I guess you're right. Yeah.
I mean, artistic, it grew into meaning a lot of different things. It was code for a lot of things, I think. But at the time, I just knew I was artistic. But she, you know, I was removed in some ways with connecting with other kids, and then in other ways I was very outgoing, and so I don't know how she knew, but she did. And the beautiful thing about the next few years, my small town at that time was an hour away from Raleigh. It's now not that long because of new highways, but my whole family, my extended family, my two sets of grandparents, aunts and uncles, and my mom and dad all took turns driving me to Raleigh to play practice. Wow. An hour there and an hour back every day of the week for about 3 months. Because you know when it's kids shows, like they rehearse forever.
Like half a year, the whole one show takes half a year.
Yes. So that's what happened. And then I did, you know, a few professional shows and that were in the Raleigh area, like The Sound of Music. And Lauren Kennedy and I were in The Sound of Music together. And we were kids, you know. So, so I grew up doing that, and it created this this safety and this sense of expression that I look back, and not to be too dramatic about it, but I feel like it saved me because I no longer felt threatened or felt other than. I knew that I had this other world, this other group of people that accepted me completely. And it slowly infiltrated into my small town life. And I became very involved in everything. I sort of overcompensated, and I created the drama. There was no drama class in my high school. There was no production. And I got the drama class started, and I got productions started.
Can we talk about how that was? Did that take a lot of work?
Well, here's the thing. So I knew enough to be dangerous. I went
enough to be dangerous.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. Oh. So I went to let's see the timing on this. I wanted to audition for a production, and it said you need a monologue. And I knew enough to figure out what a monologue was. So I went to my high school and I said, are there any drama books anywhere? Because I thought there used to be a drama class there. And they gave me a key to a storeroom and let me climb up to a shelf and find this old drama book, which I looked in the back and I looked at monologue, and there were monologues. So I found this monologue and I learned it and I used it to audition. Now, I didn't find out until years later that the monologue was written to be performed by an elderly African-American woman. So I had no idea what I was saying. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue, but I did it.
Yeah.
And then I went to, one summer, I went to North Carolina School of the Arts for a summer session, and I had this incredible teacher there, this man named Don Nance, who lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've never spoken to him, known of him since that summer. Wow. But he said so many things that stayed with me, and I had notebooks filled of what he taught. And he told about at the time that there were 10 schools around the country that were part of the League of Professional Training Program. And at the end of the 4 years of training, they would take their students to New York and do a showcase. And this was the beginning of all this, now it's exploded. But I wrote all of that down and knew that that's what I wanted. And I wrote away to all of those schools to get information so that I could apply. Because when I went to my guidance counselor in my small high school, not only did they not know the names or how to get in touch with these schools, they opened I'll never forget this, they opened the file drawer, which was supposed to be for out-of-state colleges, and it was empty. I mean, most of my school didn't go away to any sort of further education, and that's fine. Yeah. But, I was in there asking about Juilliard and Carnegie Mellon and Yale, and that just wasn't on their radar. So the fact that I sent away for these materials, that got me in touch with auditioning for those schools. And I did, and I was accepted into a few of them, and the one that I went to was Carnegie Mellon. And then that took my love of theater to a completely different level, and I trained there as an actor, and yeah.
I wrote down, and because I did a little research,
so
fact check me, because internet's a wonderful place, and yet sometimes mistaken, that you saw Ira David Wood in Man of La Mancha and Beth Level in Funny Girl.
Yes.
And I don't remember the context, but I read it and felt like it was important to you, so I wrote that down because I felt like I should repeat this to you.
Yes, it's amazing. I have no idea where that was in print, but yes, those were monumental moments for me as a young performer.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, you did well.
Great.
Good.
So,
gold star.
yeah, why, what? Well, what do you remember from the
Ira
shows?
David Wood is this amazing man in Raleigh, North Carolina, that has created an incredible theater there, Theater in the Park, which I grew up working in. Okay. And he was a very monumental part of my growth and development. But before I even got to know him, my mom took me to see, I was still in high school, she took me to see Man of La Mancha at the North Carolina Theater. And his performance in that we've all had moments like that where you see something and it changes you. Yeah. You are forever changed, and you can't name it. You don't know exactly what it is, but you feel this spirit moving through you that makes you know that you're connected. And I felt that, and I also knew in my heart that I would know him, which I ended up knowing him and working very closely with him. I've directed him since then as well, and I know his family very well. His son and his daughter both are very accomplished actors. Yeah. His daughter is Evan Rachel Wood. So yeah, that was a moment, and a moment that's not listed there is actually one with Sandy Duncan. My first Broadway show seeing was Peter Pan at the Lunt-Fontanne, and I remember I was 12 years old. I remember where we sat. I had a special outfit bought to go to the theater. I remember what it was. I love it. Pinstripe brown shirt with my initials monogrammed into the collar. Amazing. But I saw her, and my mom remembers that I said at that production, I want to do that.
How old were you?
I was 12.
Okay.
I'd already been doing children's theater, but this took it to a new level. Yeah. And I got to tell Sandy that story because I was able to direct her years later in Driving Miss Daisy. But the Beth Level story is really cool. I was thinking about this just the other day. So the Beth Level story is I was in high school and fortunate enough to work with North Carolina Theater to be in the ensemble of a few of their shows, and one of those was George M. And we kept being told that, I think it was the role of like Faye or something, I forget the name, but it was like this featured part, and that the person playing it would be joining us at the end of the week. And it was like the sits probe, and then everybody's like, here comes Beth. And she was doing her first Broadway show at the time. She was doing 42nd Street the first time that she did it. And she flew in just in time for the sits probe, and I will never forget seeing her sing. She just like walked in and stood in front of the orchestra and sang the song that she sang in the show. It was perfect. And then she was so funny, and I was like, I'm obsessed with this person. Wow. And then on a break from college, I got to see her do a rehearsal of Funny Girl, and it's the first fan letter that I ever wrote. I went back to school, and I wrote this gushing fan letter. It's the first and the only one I've ever written. And
what did it say? Like, what did
it just?
I love you. I love.
Yeah, it's like I can't. Like I was so, you're amazing, and your level of comedy and the way you. I just, and to this day, like seeing Beth on stage, and it's like when you feel like someone is a star before they are a star. Yeah. And you feel some way like you had something to do with it. I had nothing to do with her being a star, but it's just you again, you felt the energy around her and her. You do.
Was she an elf?
She was.
She was
danced on the table. I think I remember her.
Yeah. Now forgive me for maybe missaying this. Was she the mom, the secretary? She had a breakout thing. I don't remember. I saw her in Elf, but I don't remember what she. And this is how you don't always remember what you see, read, but you remember how it made you feel, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I said that already. I was driving, listening to the soundtrack of Elf, and I don't remember what the song was. This woman was singing. Yeah, she was enunciating perfectly. Yeah, and I knew exactly how she felt. And I was just driving. I was looking at a road. I was driving. Yeah, and then I quick glance, and it's like Beth Level, and I was like, oh my goodness.
She has the power to do that.
Firecracker.
And what's funny, and I hadn't thought of it this way, and I'm not trying to make this about me, but I was able to direct Beth as well years later. And it's funny, these three people that meant so much to me, these monumental moments where I saw them on stage, and it's been a blessing that I've been able to work with them. And with Beth, Beth is from Raleigh, North Carolina, so a few years ago, we asked her to come back and be in a production of Steel Magnolias that I directed, and for her to play Mellon in that, and she was brilliant. And it was just such a such a highlight to be able to, I don't know, get in the sandbox and play with these people who I have admired and learned so much from.
Yeah. So what lessons did you learn about yourself or about theater from doing it in Raleigh? Because you went there a lot. That happened a lot. Was that like you learned, I don't know, what do you want to call it, backstage etiquette, rehearsal etiquette, or just about yourself and others?
Do you mean early on, or that I continue? Because I continue to go back there and do directing things. But you mean like when I started acting?
Yeah, but we can also like open it up too if there's.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned so many lessons there because the theaters there, North Carolina Theater and Theater Raleigh and Theater in the Park, and many others, but have given me so many opportunities. But I learned, discipline is the through line of my life, and preparation, and I learned, how to treat people and respect, and the importance of being prepared. And I remember one time, this was a big lesson that I actually learned with David Wood. There was an evening where it was a production I was in, a play I was in, and he was giving notes, and I forget what it was, but it was something that he really wanted, people to improve upon. And I remember saying to him, I guess the next day I went up and I was, nervous, and I was like, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, and I'm really gonna do this thing more. And he just smiled and said, "You're already doing it." He said, "It's such a fact of life that the people who hear the notes for improvement are usually the ones who are already doing it at the level that it needs to be done." And unfortunately, a lot of the people who need the notes, are just flying over their head. But anyway, that was a big lesson. It was, it's still good to take the notes even if they don't apply to you. How can I always be better? And I learned that there.
Do you have any examples or anything that comes to mind as life happening for you? Maybe a story or a moment in time where life happened for you?
I'm a little blank on that. I mean, I feel like I've been so lucky. So there have been tons of things that have happened for me. I do feel I have strong feelings about luck being, is the old definition of luck being opportunity meeting preparation. Yeah. One has to be ready when that door opens to walk through it, and prepared, because those windows don't open all the time. But I just said doors and windows, opening things. Oh gosh, no. The lights just went out.
Is that the universe saying no? It's door only.
Yes.
The lights literally just shut off on us.
Exactly. So,
we forgot where we're headed.
No. I do. It's as far as life happening for me. I mean, I certainly don't feel. I mean, I feel like I'm in a perfect. I have received a lot of gifts and a lot of miracles, actually. At the same time, I've worked hard for the things that have come in my life.
And that's a very interesting thought you bring up, because people are like, "Oh, you're so lucky, and it's like, well, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah,
it's all a direct correlation.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't begrudge anyone who is born into a very connected family. I don't begrudge anyone who is born into a lot of money at all. As long as they do good things with it and they use it to the best of their ability, I don't begrudge them. I didn't have either one of those things, but I mean, it wasn't that I grew up poor, but at the same time, I didn't grow up with things being just provided for me, without working for them. So there was that strong sense of, if you want to get to the next level, you have to work for this, and you have to work hard for this. And if you sit back, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, is that something you learned from your parents?
Yeah.
What did they teach you about, like, say, work ethic?
Well, my dad was really big on, nothing is owed to you. So
Nothing is owed to you. That's true.
Exactly. If you sit back and feel like, oh, I should get this or I should get that, ain't nothing coming your way. and so, but at the flip side, he used to say, at the same time, if people do offer you help or I don't think he said like a free pass. I don't think but like if people are offering you something, take it. I mean, don't be so filled with ego and say, no, I'll do this my own way, or don't be so stubborn in that way. So it is being open to the universe. And I think that's where your question was coming from. What times has it felt like the universe has opened up and sort of guided you? And I have had that many times. I mean, my first job out of Carnegie Mellon was kind of like the Cinderella story, and I did come out of that showcase, which I so wanted to be a part of. I did, and I had a job on a television show within 4 days. I was on you can't see my hair now, but I had big hair. I don't have hair now. But I had like soap hair and whatever. I never thought that I would be on a soap opera because I wasn't like a soap hunk, but I did. I landed a role and I was on there for a year. And I never in a million years thought that would be my road or my plight. And but doors were open and I walked through them and I worked hard to do that. And, when I made decisions to transition out of acting and to go to segue more into directing, but then to go completely into casting, those were scary, scary, scary decisions, because I think for anyone who's thinking about transitioning from one area into another area, we're filled with fear. Fear has worn a lot of costumes in my life.
It's a sneaky one.
It's a sneaky one. You think you've got her down, and she will come poking back up.
Come through the window.
Yeah, she'll come back to that window or creak the door open.
Yeah.
No, it's true, and so when I was thinking about moving into casting full time and not doing acting, it's all of those feelings of I'm a failure. I didn't get to the place I thought I would get to. I'm selling out. I'm never going to feel creative again. All of those voices. And I'm here to say it is talk about being pushed off the diving board and taking the leap. And it opened everything else up.
How did you get comfortable with that? The fear of the unknown, not knowing the answers.
Well, it's a great quote that faith is not going from A to B, it's just leaving A.
I've never heard that before. Oh, I really like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, because it's just you have to be able to, and I think a similar quote is like, I'm gonna murder this, but like going up the staircase and not seeing the top of the stairs. It's like it's dark and you're going up the staircase and you can't see the top, but you keep going up the stairs.
Yeah.
Sort of the same idea.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, these are good.
But it's the idea of not knowing that there's a net.
Leaping and the net shall appear.
That's right. That's right. And so, I believe when those monumental moments come into our lives, that it's important. I believe that when those moments come into our lives, it's important to get in touch with our higher selves. And, whether that means prayer, meditation, walking along the water.
Do you meditate?
I do. I wish I could. Something I've worked on. I wish I could say that I did it a lot more. Prayer is very important in my life. I wish I could say I was better with meditation. My mind just wanders, and then I know that I could say that's okay. That's okay. That's what this is.
That's the whole
Accept
point.
that. That's the whole point. Just breathe through it. I know, but I don't meditate on a daily basis. I do pray on a daily basis, and I should say, because just to clarify what that means, because
can be taboo for some.
It can be for
Yeah.
some, and I don't mean for it to be all gaudy, but it's in the for me it takes the shape and the form of spirituality, and I think that's a little more accepted by more people. It's whatever it is to a person. It's very personal.
Well, yeah, whatever your God is to you.
That's it.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that's where I am with that, but that part of spirituality keeps me balanced.
And that kept you balanced through the transition. You know,
Yes.
the fear of the unknown.
Yes.
Okay.
Totally.
So if we can, I would like to talk about how casting came about.
Yeah.
Where that, you know.
Absolutely.
How
Well,
did that
one
come
of my best friends, Ron LaRosa, is a casting director. Well, we grew up as
Yes,
actors to start with.
Ron.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Ron is one of my nearest, dearest, oldest friends. I say old. Yes, and we were actors together. I was around when he got out of acting and started working at Johnson Liff. I got to know all the folks at Johnson Liff when he was there, and Tara Rubin was one of those casting directors at Johnson Liff. And so I became involved with their office as an assistant once in a while to fill in. I was very often a reader. I filled in the office a few times doing different activities, and I always thought, I never really thought about it seriously, but I thought, I like that, or I'm really intrigued about that whole process. And then there came a time where Vinny and Jeff called me in and asked me if I was interested in being an assistant and joining their office. And at the time, they wanted me to hang up my acting and directing because they felt it would be a conflict of interest. And I really respected that, but I wasn't able to do that. And I'm glad that I made that decision at the time. And Tara was in there. She was in that meeting, and she remembers that too. So I didn't do that then, and I'm glad I didn't do it then, but it kind of it planted another seed. So then cut 2 years later, Tara starts her own company, and it's taking off so quickly, and it's just, she's doing so well, and she just has, at that time, I think she had just one person with her, and then she had one associate and one assistant. And my friend Ron called and said, Eric, if you've ever really thought about this, now's the time to jump, because she is going to be expanding so quickly, and you should reach out to her.
She's becoming Tara Rubin.
Yes, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening fast.
Yeah.
And so I was putting my time at that point. I was back doing a lot of work in North Carolina, working with this kids' conservatory through North Carolina Theater, and I was slated to direct a show, I think, with Theater Works at the time. And anyway, it was in the summer, and I came into New York, and we met for 2 hours. And she basically offered me the job then. And I was luckily able to come in as a casting director. I was one of her associates from the beginning, which is not the norm. Most people do start as an intern and then move their way through. But because at that point, my 10, 12-year history as an actor and teacher and director at that time, we joke about it. I could make a list for, a star list for Sunset Boulevard in my first week, but I couldn't operate the copy machine. So there were things that I had to learn that I needed to learn, but she wanted someone who had been around, and she wanted someone who had some experience. And so we, I love her more than I can say, and she's why I do this, and has taught me everything that is near and dear to me about this profession and about casting. Leading with taste, leading with discretion, and leading with dignity. And if you make people feel appreciated and seen and heard, you'll get the best out of them. And that's what we want.
That's true.
Yeah.
What is it? Okay, so sitting behind that table, what has that taught you about human nature? Or what observations have you made?
Sure. I mean, so many things. I mean, I learn as much by the other people behind the table as I do from people that are coming into audition. But I learn how important it is to be kind, and how important it is to make people feel comfortable, because it's a hard thing. Auditioning is so friggin' weird.
It's so weird.
It's so weird. It's surreal. Like you're coming in, you're trying to be your best self, and you're trying to get hired. You're trying to show a little bit of who you are, but then you're trying to be what you think we want you to be. It's also twisted. And the thing that I have learned is what's most important is to be yourself. Is to bring. We want to see a taste of who you are as a person, so that we can then know how to serve you, how to where to put you, how to suggest you for things, and we get to know that by seeing the real you. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that when I was an actor. I thought, oh, be what they want, like be a certain character coming in the room, and then be another character when you read the stuff. I don't know, but that's, I can tell you that I've learned. We really respond favorably to people revealing who they are and who they are that day.
Yeah. And how does that come about? Like, how do have you gotten better at seeing that?
Yeah, you can tell when somebody's really nervous.
It's like feeling an energy.
Yeah, and I'll say, do you want to take a second and just go back outside? We'll come back out and get you. Just take a second. I remember, certain times when, the day after the election, we were doing auditions, and it was a freaky, funky day for a lot of people, and it was tough.
You saw people's true selves, or
you saw people's true selves, but you saw people. It was hard, and it was a hard day for people to carry on like nothing. The world changed that day.
Yeah,
and so it was a lot to care about coming in and auditioning, but people did, and a lot of people it was harder than they thought, and so you could sort of feel that, and you were like, take a second, go back outside, and we'll come get you in a minute. But even on less dramatic days than that, I think you try to sense that. I'm not a person that believes you can't tell when you're sick. You're taught not to, that's supposed to be this big secret.
You're talking about like a mental or physical?
Well, I don't mean mental sick.
No, I don't mean like that. I just mean like you're not in your best mental state.
Well, no, that I don't think necessarily needs to be told. But like versus if somebody is really, they've had laryngitis, and
like a vocal thing.
And we're taught that we're never supposed to say it, that we're not supposed to apologize or whatever. I think if it's really noticeable. As a casting director, I like to be told. If I'm told outside of the room, I can protect you. I can ride the wave and see if it comes up in conversation after. And then if it does, I can say, look, they didn't want to make a big deal over it, but they're just getting over laryngitis. So if you have a question about it, we should get them back next week and try again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of that. It's reading how people are, and you get to know too, like I've done this for a long time. I'm in my 16th year. You get to read people pretty well. There are people who are terrible auditioners, who are brilliant performers. And you see, they might have done 3 Broadway shows, but they come in and the pages are shaking. It looks like they're holding a fan. For some people, the nerves don't go away, and they work really hard, but they are horrible auditioners. So it helps to feel like you have somebody in your corner, and we always are. If a new director doesn't know that about them, I feel it's our job to say they just don't always audition the best. So,
but trust it,
trust it. There's the body of work here.
And yes, you're bringing up a great point, and this is something that I've just been figuring out and have figured out, that when you are auditioning or interviewing for a job, whatever you want to call it, in any field, they're want to take a risk on you.
Yeah.
And if they don't know you, they want as much information about you as possible.
Yes.
To make the best educated decision about you.
Absolutely.
So when you're not being yourself, you're not helping yourself.
That's exactly right.
Because a lot of people hear that in this profession.
Yeah.
Be yourself, be yourself. Sometimes they come to the holding room. Be yourself, be yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'll be myself.
I know.
But it's that idea of yes, and then if you get a call back for the team, now the casting director is relying on you to be yourself.
Yes, absolutely. We want it. I know. Be yourself feels as empty as go in there and have fun. Everybody have fun. Sing something you love.
Yeah.
Like I know they feel like really empty statements coming from us. They're not, because you can tell a difference when someone sings something that they truly love or something that you can tell they crammed the night before or the week before because they thought it was a better fit. The singing the song that they love, they share a part of their soul. And that's what all this is about. We want to get closer to feeling their soul and knowing who they are.
To get closer to feeling their soul.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the human experience.
Yeah.
And that so often gets swept under the rug, and we think it's all about the profession and all about blah, 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 all the voices that get into our heads. But it's really about the human experience of sensing a person's light.
Sensing a person. These are great things. Sensing a person's life.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
I
Yeah.
mean, like if that's what we heard in the holding room, that would be like,
I know.
oh,
Right.
did I pick the right song?
Exactly. I want to sense your light.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't want to freak people out though.
Yeah, it's true.
But yes.
But it's that idea.
It is that idea. And I mean, you said an important thing. I mean, we are part of the audition process, and this gets into when I teach classes, I often label things as what I know now that I didn't know then, from being on this side of the table as opposed to that. And there aren't that many things that are that different. But one of the things that does stick out is, being a good person, being a person that people want to spend countless hours with in tight quarters can be just as important or more important than the talent. And I say that, I've been careful with the way that I say this through the years with classes because I feel like I have really scared people before, and it's not my purpose. But I do think it is really important to be said, it doesn't matter where you are doing whatever job in this country. You could think it was the smallest, podunkiest place, and no one's ever going to hear from this. But if you cause a stir, if you have a scene with anyone, it will haunt you for the rest of your profession. Everything follows everybody. And now with the internet, and now it's like it's an instant and it's back to New York. But I have been a part of so many auditions where somebody can be in a room, blow us away. They walk out, the door shuts, heads start to, lean down the table and look at each other, and somebody will say, "Do you know them?" or "Who knows them?" And somebody will, if there's a story to be shared, somebody will have the story, and they will share it, and that picture will be put in the no pile faster than you can say their name, and they will never be discussed again. And I say that as something just to, it's not to threaten or to scare people. It's to say, keep your side of the street clean. Be nice.
Be nice.
And think about it. Like if somebody, don't cause a scene, don't take on management, don't take
on management.
Don't. Go home and get on the phone with your mom, your partner, or your therapist. Have it out. Write it in a journal.
Burn the piece of paper.
Don't put it on Facebook. We grew up, I'm older than you, but I grew up in a time where, that's why this whole Facebook thing, it takes me, it's a little difficult to take sometimes, because I grew up in an age where you were encouraged to write your innermost thoughts, put them in a diary. Literally, the diaries had locks. You locked them and you hid them like under your mattress or in a drawer. And now it's like opposites day.
And kept the key around your neck.
Kept the key, yes.
Literally around your neck.
Yes, because there were things that were supposed to be private, and now now people are encouraged to, every thought they put out there for not only the people they know to see, but like millions of people. Like it's a little beyond me. It feels a little dangerous to me, but I know it's just a different way of thinking, I guess.
You brought up a really great point, that sometimes, more often than not, who they are as a person is way more important than what talent they bring into the room. Way more.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting that you say that, because that's something I heard growing up, and I saw it, in the community theater and what have you.
Yeah.
But not until I worked on a boat did I realize, like, even those contracts, like, that stuff gets back. It's not like...
Oh, it all gets back.
And cruise line is not really that separate from the
No.
theater community in the city.
No, it all
It's
gets
really
back.
not. Yeah, exactly. And that's something that's really ringing with me. So
Because
that's fine.
the good or bad of that lesson is, I don't like to get caught up in gossip. I don't like it. The only reason I pay attention to any of it is, part of my job is when people call and say, what have you heard about them? What have you heard about this person? Is there any trouble? Are there any stories? And so I don't like to know that stuff, but then sometimes it is my job to at least be able to say, you should get on the phone with so-and-so, and just to get to the bottom. I hear that there might have been some issues at such and such place.
Very kind of you. Many people would not do that.
Yeah. But I think, I really do believe in, don't get involved with the drama. People love drama. I mean, we're in the theater business. Yeah. But I don't like that. Get to the facts. If, I don't want to base something on somebody saying, I heard, or I think, or it seems like, Get to the issue. If there was an issue, find it out. But, it gets back.
Yeah, and along with this whole topic, I've heard countless stories too, where it's just like, oh my goodness, like, so much talent, and yet it can be thrown away. in a heartbeat from something like that.
But the thing too, I want to say, just as we finish up this sort of topic, people can change.
Yes.
And I work with some incredible directors who love being a part of taking chances on giving someone a second shot or a third shot, where years might have passed or people go through pretty intense things, as we know. And so sometimes actors go through big changes in their lives, and then they reach out and they say, I didn't realize how severe my actions were at the time, but I realize that now, and I'm sorry for whatever pain that caused. Great, and we move on. And I've seen beautiful examples of people, reviving their careers by taking such action. So I love nothing more than being a part of a decision to give someone a second chance.
That's beautiful. That's usually very beautiful to see someone grow.
Yes,
progress. It's
absolutely.
always a beautiful thing. Okay, so you mentioned a second ago, a few minutes ago, things that you wish you knew auditioning versus like what you know now.
Yes,
directing and casting directing. Top 3, top 5, top 10?
Oh, I don't know.
Things,
I'll just say some
one?
that. Yeah, I know one is, and I talk about this a lot, the level of preparation that is expected. I came out of a very rigorous, training program, and so I did have a great level of preparation that I went into auditions supporting. But I then went to LA, and they're like, don't rehearse things too much, like let it feel natural and whatever. I get that's fine for film and TV. It is not fine for theater. And one of the things that I remember being told, I don't know if it was in school or in some classes somewhere, but they were encouraging people when they went to audition not to give it all away and to let people know just an inkling of what they would get if they hired you. That is so much BS. Like you have got a shot to go in there, and you need to be the best version of you that you can be with the amount of time you were given.
Yeah.
I say it should be your version of opening night, with you self-directing, which isn't always a good thing. But I mean, but it's you doing.
It's the idea.
It's the idea. Yeah. It's you doing the best with the knowledge that you have of what the material is, of what the character is, of what the people behind the table might want. Like it's a guessing game, but you have to just make choices fully, and you have to go with it. And what I say to young students, everybody always asks me what my pet peeve is, and I don't have a pet peeve per se. But what upsets me the most in the casting process is seeing actors, usually younger ones, coming to the city, throwing away opportunities. And the way that they throw away these opportunities is not preparing and not knowing the level of preparation that is expected. And it is being inside of a scene. It is more than memorization. It doesn't matter if things are totally memorized. You have to be inside of it. The words are just the skimming the surface of what you need to know in a scene. It's about the behavior and the thought and the character and living it. And I often say, it's not that we get mad at you if you're not prepared and you're not at the level you should be. You just don't get the part. Yeah. Because in New York, the person before you that went in the door was prepared. The person after you was prepared. Some of those people are going to get it. That's just the numbers of this. And I feel bad for a lot of the actors that don't know the level that it needs to be. And I tell you, I mean, I actually learned that by being a reader. And then when I first got into casting and seeing that it never goes away. First of all, I thought before I got on this side of the table was that you maybe got your first Broadway show, or and then you stopped auditioning, you just got offers, and that does not happen. Everyone except for a very, very, very few people continue to always audition. Tony Awards, Tony nominations, multiple Broadway shows, like auditions continue to happen. And the thing is, when I started seeing some of those people audition, I learned a huge lesson, because the level of preparation of those people was off the charts. And I thought, okay, that's how you got where you are. I see it now. Yeah. I see. You came here to get this gig, and
you already had it.
You already had it.
You're
you
just
already
waiting
had
for
it. You're waiting for them to know it. But you had to come in, and it's not like they came in and just thought, and played some grand thing. They came in and they had worked on it, and they made choices, because the thing is, the stakes just get higher. It's all relative. There's even more pressure to get it and to succeed, but it's all relative, whether you have success or whether you're first starting out. The level of preparation never changes. And so that's one of the huge things that I have a new appreciation for, and and I view that in a very different way than I did then.
Yeah. That's another funny thing you bring it up. It's I noticed that when I see some of these Broadway shows, and you realize, oh wow, they're singing, but that's not what's important. It's the life they're living.
Yeah.
And you forget that.
Yeah.
Not you. Some people forget that when they go in for 16 bars. They're like, let me hit my high note. It's like, no. If you can bring the emotion behind the high note, why you need to go that high, that's when you, like Beth, level the room.
There you go.
But it's that.
It's that.
Yeah.
It's that thing. I say this often, there are a few occasions where we're forced, because of the amount of people that show up to some of the equity calls. On rare occasion, we have to say that people can only sing 8 bars of music rather than 16. It's heinous. But I often say, please don't throw that away. I've seen it work both ways. I've seen people wait all day and come in the room and sing, 8 bars, and you can tell they're angry. They're singing the worst 8 bars, and it's like it cuts off, and they sort of look like, well, that's 8 bars. And I think, why did you do that? And what I encourage people to do is make the most of it, just like you said. And I often say, how often have you gone to an ice cream counter or a soup counter and asked for a tiny spoon to taste? And from that, how many times have you known that you want more? That's what 8 bars is. Because I've gone through those those course calls with 8 bars, and I've sat with music directors and we put so many people in the yes pile. You just have to think fast. You have to make quick decisions, and you go off of hearing those 8 bars. And it's important to not just sing a money high note. It's important to connect. You know, if you're singing The Green Hill and that's all you get out, you better see that hill. You better see how green it is.
That hill better hurt you.
That hill better hurt.
You need to tell that hill what you need to give it back. Yeah, turn.
And you better feel something from that hill.
Yes! Oh, I love it!
But it's true. I have seen beautiful moments with 8 bars.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And people come in and they're often like, I couldn't cut that down to 32. I couldn't cut that down to 16. Like, it would kill the journey. I'm like, you haven't tried hard enough. Like, everything can be cut if it needs to be. I'm not taking away from the way writers meant their songs to be and should be performed in full, in shows. But in auditions, you can still have a journey. It can be 3 words and you can have a journey.
Yeah.
But it's important not to throw that away. I mean, that was back to your point on that.
That's the thing you see when you see the top performers in the industry. They have a journey with a look.
Absolutely.
They don't even say a word.
Yeah.
They just, before they exit, they have these like 5 different moments with their eyes.
It's ownership.
And they walk out.
I've spent a lot of time connecting the dots backwards and thinking what makes a great audition and what are they doing that some other people aren't doing, and I don't have any, secret anecdotes. But I do know that there's something with people that have had a bit of success or are currently starring in a Broadway show. When they come into audition for something, there's a stillness, there is a confidence, and there's an ownership that they don't need to do any more than is necessary to be in that moment and alive. And they are sharing it with you, and they are inviting you in, and it's your choice whether or not you come to them. And that is such a twist from what I so often see, where people are just like throwing their energy so hard and in such abundance, across the table. And so I often say, just relax and just live in it. It's hard. It's hard because it's what I'm really talking about is the desperation that sometimes comes through. And I don't fault anyone for that because I have been there. I get it. It is hard. Actors are doing all that they know to do to get their dream and what they want. I don't fault anyone for that. Yeah. It's just, it is sort of this fine line of not pushing too hard yet arriving at the place you need to be.
Yeah. And I heard that from what you're saying. Oh, it's so good. I heard this from Andrea Burns. Mm-hmm. She demonstrated for the class at Stella Adler the 2 ways to enter. It's
amazing.
Like nervous and like coming in like, oh, hi, sorry, it's my turn. And then the second person who comes in super welcoming, yet still is a teacher in like a 2nd grade classroom.
Yeah.
And like saying that it's good. That's a good analogy. Then watching.
Yes.
Like you could feel the energy on the doorknob as it turned. It was like, oh, this person's here to win.
Yeah. That's brilliant. And it doesn't surprise me because she's so friggin' awesome.
Because you see that.
Yeah. She's amazing. But you see, I often say, is the difference of someone coming to ask for a role and someone coming in to claim their role. There's an ownership, and it's not cocky. It is not. It's confidence. It's confidence of taking that moment before you walk in and saying, I've done the work, and now let me go do this. I think it's Tyne Daly. I read a quote from her years ago where she said, auditioning switched for her when she realized that she, for 5 minutes on a Tuesday, she got to walk in her room and do the thing that she loved to do. And it suddenly made it fun, dare I say, but like that it was not this horrible thing where you felt like you were being tested and judged, but yet you got to go share a piece of who you are. And so I encourage that thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know. We can continue on that for
yeah.
another 3 hours. I want to touch on some other things
Sure.
though here
Yeah.
while I still got you.
Yeah.
Okay, directing.
Yes.
What did you learn about leadership from directing?
Well, I love directing, and I love the chance to steer a ship, land a plane, all the
Every
those
analogy.
analogies. Yeah, absolutely. But I really do love that, because I love bringing people together and being the energy force that combines great talent, and seeing how all that goes together and fits. I love throwing out an idea that can be developed by other really creative and energetic people. So much of my life, and it's been a blessing to be in the casting world. But so much of my life has been helping fulfill other people's vision. And I love that. I love playing a part in that. But when I get to direct, I can dream myself, and I can see my own vision coming to life. And that is very fulfilling. Not in an egotistical way, but in a way that feels oddly like I'm doing service, and I'm giving back, and that I'm providing opportunities for other people. I believe it's important to lead with love always, and I believe in honesty. I don't believe in just skirting around issues. I believe in hitting things head on. I believe there's a way to do that. By being nice, but being honest. And it's not always comfortable, but I have seen too many instances in this business where it's easier for people to go run and shut doors and be hidden and bitch and moan and complain and cause a lot of stress, rather than sit down at a table and look in each other's eyes and figure it out. I'm surprised how often that doesn't happen. It feels like a much easier solution, more difficult, because it's harder.
Definitely.
It's harder.
Yeah.
But as far as leadership, I think it's imperative.
It's necessary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely necessary. Yeah. Has it gotten easier ever to address that kind of thing, or it's always different? It's always...
Luckily, certainly as it comes to my directing life, I've not had a lot of conflict. So
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, I've been pretty fortunate when it comes to that. But it does get easier. It gets easier because you believe in yourself, and you know that is, I don't know, the humane way to go about things.
Yeah.
The kind way.
When you lose focus, how do you get back on track?
I never lose focus.
Oh, hello. You heard it here first. Now we can be historically accurate. It's being recorded.
I never take my eye off the ball. No. When I do, I
never take my eye off the ball.
When I lose focus, I mean...
Or is there a headspace you put yourself in before you go head on with something?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to... There are times that the energy in my life is so frenetic that there are days and evenings when I get home and I have kept the lights off. I mean, not like dark, but like, and just sort of looked at a wall to be still and to be quiet. But, family is very important to me. My friends are very important to me. Phone calls, my network of support. I just think we have to have that. I have to have that. People that make me laugh, people that I can make laugh, to keep things in perspective. So losing focus for me is just if I have some friends that know when I start to lose my temper. I didn't actually mean to say temper. I'm going to go back.
Yeah,
because I really didn't mean to say temper.
Yeah.
When I lose my humor, I have friends that know that when I lose my humor is when I need to stop and breathe and loosen up.
Yeah. It's good to have those people around you.
It is.
Because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
It's like when I lose my... Well, I would call it temper.
Yeah.
But because I have a humor about me, I'm like...
Yeah.
When I lose my... When I start to go into that kind of gray area, they're like, oh, they see it.
Yeah.
You know, there's that realization.
Well,
like,
I can say
something's
temper too. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's when I get very direct and I start to get a little short and I feel, and there's not a lot of lightness and buoyancy and humor around it.
It's time to readjust.
It's time to readjust.
Yeah,
I'm a huge one about the humor. Like, I believe in making people laugh when they shouldn't laugh, and because why are we here? Like, we're here to
No one's
enjoy
getting out
it.
alive.
No. And so it's important to laugh,
Yeah.
and if you can't do that and you can't be funny about it, it's
How do you view happiness?
happiness. It's funny. I used to think it was fun. I think there's a line from the Heidi Chronicles. I believe Heidi says, "I don't understand happy," or "I don't know what happy is," or something. And I went through my 20s and I thought that was really cool. And I like saying I don't really know what happy is. I don't believe that now. I love happy. How do I view happiness? Happiness to me is feeling free, feeling fulfilled, feeling close to family. Happiness is not letting things wear me down. And whenever I get too spun up, too overloaded, and I feel like I'm getting away from feeling the sense of happiness, the universe will do something. And normally for me, it is a child. It's usually a child, many times on the subway, connecting eyes. And I won't even know that it's happening, and I look and I see like these eyes staring at me from a baby. And I'm like, there it is. That's God. Just saying, like, put it in perspective. Put it into perspective.
I love that.
And it works.
It does. How do you stay in the light in this polarized world of darkness and light?
Well, that we could talk a long time about. But yeah. I think
Yeah.
I think staying in the light for me is staying positive. And I can cut up with the best of them. I can appreciate and love sarcasm and all of that, but I don't live there. And I believe in supporting the positive and the greater good, and thinking about what's truly important. I grew up a Southern boy in the church, and I went on my own journey with that not working for me for a long time, and then finding my own connection with what that does mean to me now. And now that is something that really, that light, that spirituality, that goodness, that idea that love wins, that gets me through. And, that keeps me in touch with my higher self. And the higher self is to me what it's all about.
Okay. It is.
Yeah.
It is. I know. I'm like, okay. Like, I didn't hear what you said, and I completely heard what you said. So let me just say that. We're winding down here. Time flies when you're having fun. I hope you are having fun.
Absolutely.
I'm speaking for myself.
No, it's good.
Struggling. So what advice would you give to someone struggling in the divide between reality and their dreams?
Yes, I have two answers to that. I really believe in never giving up. I really believe in sustaining. I really believe in holding on and having a thick skin and fighting to the finish. I believe in all of those ideas. I also believe in a flip side. I believe in being honest with oneself. on one hand, as actors, creative people, we can be our own worst enemy. We can be so self-critical, and I don't encourage that. I encourage being positive. I encourage, picking oneself up by the bootstraps and trudging along. But I do think there is a time to take a very introspective look at how things are going. And if things are not taking steps forward, reassess and continue to reassess. There's nothing wrong with that. One of my all-time favorite books is The Alchemist. And one of the ideas in The Alchemist is as long as you are, I'm going to murder this idea, but it's the idea that if there are two paths, it ultimately, and you're scared about which one to choose, it ultimately doesn't matter which path you choose. It's just important that you choose one and you go down it and that you try it. Because if you are doing that to the best of your ability, then you'll be guided to where you should be going. So you could be guided to the other path. But that takes a lot of listening, that takes a lot of trust, and it takes action. So I see a lot of people sustaining and not giving up, which is wonderful. Some of those people, sometimes I just hope they're happy. And if you're happy doing that, fantastic. If you're not happy doing that, go do something that makes you happy. And don't feel like you're a failure for not continuing. So that's what I say to people who are perhaps struggling is do get real, and because the miracle could be waiting on the other side of the woods. And it could be, you could be scared to take that leap, and that could be what opens up everything. We've seen that so often. It's taking that chance. So I guess what I worry about, or what I really don't like to see in people for them, is when it feels like they're just so unhappy and they're really having a hard time and they want something to break, and I feel like that might be the time to try something else, even for a little while.
Yeah, because you can always go back.
Absolutely.
Whatever you're doing before.
That's it.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. That you brought up a bunch of good points in there. You brought up that's good. That's just good. Do you have a burnout / wake up call story? Something that comes to mind?
Well, I mean, I went through, in my early 30s, I went through a lot of changes, and I went through, I joked about it earlier, but I did lose my hair. It's hereditary, and I never thought that would be my journey, because I had really thick hair and all of that. And it sounds like such a small thing, but it was a big thing for me, because it quickly changed my identity on a lot of levels, and certainly in the business and where I fit in, and what I was right for, and what I, acting wise. So that was happening, and I was also questioning acting in general, like, what is the greater good? What is the greater purpose? How can I help people? How can I serve people? So I was questioning all of that, and the whole Saturn Returns thing, I didn't really ever understand, but 28, 29 into 30 for me was huge. Like, I did not do well with it, and it like stirred everything in my being. So I asked some really big questions, and that's where I started a lot of changes. So that was a big wake up call, with just figuring out Where do I fit in, and what do I really want?
Yeah, and I asked that question because usually on the other side of that is everything.
Oh my God, yeah.
You want.
Yeah.
Or at least happiness.
Totally.
And that's what's so incredible about those stories.
Totally. I mean, casting, I said earlier that I was worried by jumping into casting that I was giving up all creativity, that I was might be selling out, that I wasn't seeing my dream through. Oh my God, like it was amazing that I took the chance because it has changed everything. I mean, everything. And the creative element has gone far beyond my wildest dreams with the people that I have been able to work with and learn from and be around. And then who knew 10 years into it that I would start directing again, and then that would be connected somehow to the casting career, So I mean,
the people you saw as a child,
yeah,
that inspired you. That's just like that blows my mind.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Like, is that a full circle or is that a full circle?
Full circle.
That's amazing. Do you have a favorite failure or apparent failure that set you up for success?
Do you know what? I think I'm going to skip that because I think I already said the one I was thinking of.
Okay. Yeah.
Failure.
So,
yeah.
Any changes in your life you've made that have increased positivity and decreased negativity?
This is going to sound elitist, and I don't mean it to. But I try to stick with the winners.
What do you mean by that?
People who have in their lives what I want. And I don't mean material things. I mean joy.
You mean like
I mean peace.
Everything in the heart and the soul.
Yeah, all of that. And people that don't get too flustered or ruffled. People that laugh. That's how I define a winner. And also really good at what they choose to do in with their lives. People that challenge me, people that are better than me, smarter than me, more talented than me. Those are all winners. So I try to stick with those people because there's so much to learn.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I had heard this before that you're the average of 5 people you spend the most time with. And if you search out those kind of people, you're going to average out all right.
That's right. That's right.
Especially if they're like
that's right.
leaps and bounds better.
That's right. Because that's what I mean. I want to be better. I want to, I'm hungry for great experiences and having the richest life possible. And I've said this to the people close in my life, not to be macabre at all, but like if it was over for me tomorrow, no one should be sad because I'm happy. And I've already done more than I ever dreamed I would do. Wow. And there's just hopefully more. But even if there's not, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Because you're full.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, I love that. Most gifted book? Books?
I mentioned it already. I mean, The Alchemist to me is monumental.
And I whispered it. I don't know if anyone heard me. I said, I love that book.
Yeah. That I go back to often. There are so many great books. I mean, I love the idea of the 4 Agreements. I love The Prophet. Yeah. These are things that I'll go back to. I keep a running list of quotes on my phone, and so those really help me a lot of the time. There's this great quote. Some people see discipline as a chore, but I see it as a sense of order that sets me free to fly. And I love that because I believe I spend so much time preparing. People think I do things and it looks easy, and they're like, "Oh my God, you just came in here knowing exactly what you wanted." And I'm like, and I don't tell them because it's not about them patting me on the back. They don't need to know what I did to get there. But I spend months and months and months when I direct a production preparing. And for casting, it's weeks and weeks when people show up and it feels willy-nilly. Like we sit down at the table, everybody's joking, "How are you kids? How are you?" But like, this is like the end of a term, like an exam, for me and for us, because we've worked so hard to get there, but we make it look easy. So that preparation and that discipline, once that's been done, then it's fun. So I enjoy the audition days with everybody because we've done the work. And then same with directing. Like, then I'm ready for whatever to come. But that's a quote from Julie Andrews.
That is. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love that quote.
I know.
I mean, that's so... Another thing that's so true. Especially great performers.
Yeah.
You go see someone on, like, their night, and it just looks like they're having fun.
Yeah.
But the ones that look like they're having the most fun have probably worked the hardest.
Well, it's like you hear the stories, the discipline, that people, when they're doing really rigorous roles, like they're not out partying at night. They're not, some of them aren't even speaking through the day. And, there are different degrees. Sometimes people can handle a lot. Some people have cords of steel and they can do lots of things, but some people know that about themselves. They know they can't do readings and do extra things while they're doing a show at night. And it's that level of discipline. It's knowing how to take care of yourself, knowing what you need, and knowing how to get that is key.
Do you have a best, most worthwhile investment? Like skill set, money, time, anything that comes to mind?
A best investment, for me, it was my education at Carnegie Mellon. Yeah. A conservatory, a BFA conservatory program is not right for a lot of people. I would even venture to say most people. I'll say that. It was right for me. I was hungry. I was ready for that. I had the focus. I lapped it up every second of it, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was really, really, really hard, and but I learned about myself, and the experiences shared there are like burnt into my soul and my my being, and so I would say, I mean, that wasn't my investment. That was my parents and my whole family, and the house being mortgaged, and I mean, it was a lot.
It takes a village.
It was a real investment, I tell you that. Still paying that off, but but that was worth it. That was worth it for me, because even though I only acted professionally for, I guess, a little over 10 years, and the fact that I went there for acting, it taught me about life. It taught me about art. It taught me about people. It taught me about human psyche. It taught me about preparation. I remember a teacher on the first day at Carnegie Mellon said, "We are not here to teach you how to do. We are here to teach you how to learn." And that has stayed with me my whole life. I feel like an eternal student, and I'm always trying to learn more and see things in a new way. And that came from school.
Yeah. I'm just like internalizing that
Yeah.
thought now. That's, taught you how to learn, not how to do. Because, and that's another thing. A lot of very successful people are eternal children.
That's
students. They're always learning.
That's it.
There's never like, I'm an adult now, I know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so dramatic. I mean, it's literally in my Carnegie Mellon notebook. It says Carnegie Mellon on the front, and it's the first thing I have written on the first day. And I kept that notebook. I haven't kept most things from school, but I kept that and I remember I can see it, the teacher in the front of the room sitting on the floor, and she said that, and I wrote it down. Yep.
Is there a common piece of incorrect advice you hear in your field? We've touched a lot of them.
I know. The one I was thinking, one of the things I was thinking about as far as incorrect advice was the notion that it's not important to be overly prepared in auditions. But I guess I don't know that it was advice, but the notion that it is important to win or succeed at all costs even if that means hurting people or stepping on them. That's to me, nothing's worth that. Yeah. So, I don't know. And I've seen that people who experience that, and
it's never worth it.
It's not worth it.
It's much better to be kind. Yeah. Okay. This has been, I love this. This is like a marathon and a wealth of information. We're going to promise this is the last one right here.
Basically, I just spoke in slogans.
It's just, like a ransom note with the cut pieces of paper, all the different letters are different. It's just like all the slogans.
Yeah, it's all the slogans.
Okay. Final question.
Yes.
Metaphorically speaking, if you could put a word, a quote on a billboard for millions of people to see, what would it be?
That would describe me or how I see things.
Describe you, how you see things, what you think the world needs to hear more of. I mean, that's like, that's another thing. I know it's a difficult one because we've touched on so much of that already. I mean, there's a bunch of quotes we've gone through already.
It is well with my soul.
It is well with my soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
And can you expand on that a little bit? I'm
Yeah.
just curious what that means to you.
What it means to me, I mean, people who grew up with this, there's a song, a religious hymn, that it comes from, for me, the idea, but it's that in the end, it's all okay. If we lived the life that we were supposed to live and we went through it with truth and with grace, it will be well with our soul. Yeah. We will be at peace. So to me, it is well with my soul means all is well. I have peace.
I love that. And that's where we're going to end. Eric, thank you.
My God, thank you. This is really fun.
I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk to me. Where can we find you if we're allowed to find you?
Let's see. I think I have to think about that. I think that I am on the interweb.
All the interweb.
No, let's see. I think you can Google my name and a couple things come up. One is my directing website, and that doesn't give out my. I think you can go to the TaraRubinCasting.com website, and that gives the ability of getting in touch with our office somehow.
Yeah.
And so things can. Yeah.
Yeah, and your website is ericwoodall.com.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And then Tara Rubin.
Yeah.
Google that.
That's it.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with these listeners before we wrap up here?
I'd like to say thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Woodall.
You've been listening to Entertainment X, the podcast. You can follow Entertainment X on Instagram at _EntertainmentX_. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join Clay next week for another curiosity conversation on Entertainment X. Thank you for listening.